The hum of the ventilation system is constant, a low drone that fills the air with the sound of machinery. The fluorescent lights flicker slightly as I sit at my desk in the temporal coordination office, fingers moving across the keyboard with practiced ease. A small monitor displays the current schedule, its numbers and symbols shifting every few seconds to reflect real-time adjustments. The office itself is a utilitarian space, constructed hastily from prefabricated modules that seem out of place against the backdrop of the dense forest outside. The walls are lined with metal frames holding up temporary screens and shelves cluttered with reports and data feeds. A thick layer of dust settles on everything despite the frequent cleaning sessions mandated by protocol. Outside my window, the foliage moves in a constant dance, driven by unseen forces. It's always green here, an ever-present backdrop that shifts subtly throughout the day. The air is humid and heavy, clinging to my skin as I work. A thin layer of condensation forms on the glass, blurring my view of the world beyond. I glance at the clock on the wall, a digital readout synchronized with the central system out, indicating exactly 8:32. My shift started 5 minutes ago, but the routine begins well before that. Each day is a series of coordinated tasks and deadlines that dictate everything from resource allocation to personnel assignments. The schedule updates every hour, reflecting real-time data collected from sensors scattered across the operation sites. A small screen on my desk displays this information, a grid of numbers and icons that represent different extraction points. The patterns are predictable, but occasionally a new variable will emerge, requiring immediate recalibration. A message pings through the intercom system, announcing an equipment failure at Site Alpha 3.L. I open another tab on my monitor to review the status reports for that area. A cluster of red alerts indicates several malfunctioning components that need urgent repair. I start typing commands into the terminal, sending out automated work orders, and adjusting the schedule accordingly. The room is quiet, except for the occasional beep from my devices or the distant sound of machinery elsewhere in the complex. My colleagues are busy with their own tasks, each one focused on their assigned duties without deviation. The atmosphere inside feels controlled, artificial, a stark contrast to the chaotic greenery outside that presses against our temporary structure. I reach into a drawer for a stack of printed reports and begin going through them methodically. Each document is filled with data points and analysis of metrics on resource extraction efficiency, environmental impact assessments, and logistical timelines. The information is dense but necessary, serving as the foundation for every decision made here. A notification pops up on my screen indicating an incoming video conference call from headquarters. I click to accept it, and a virtual avatar appears on the monitor, the face of our operations director, a stern figure with an authoritative tone that leaves no room for deviation. He outlines several directives and updates, emphasizing the importance of adherence to protocol. I nod along silently as he speaks, taking notes in real time. The meeting ends abruptly after a few minutes, leaving me with a list of new tasks to prioritize. I save my work and move on to the next item, reviewing maintenance logs for all equipment currently offline due to system failures or scheduled downtime. Each entry is meticulously detailed, listing issues ranging from minor malfunctions to significant breakdowns. The office door slides open momentarily, admitting one of the field technicians who enters with a clipboard in hand. He nods briefly and heads straight toward another workstation where his data needs to be processed before he can return to Site Alpha 3 for repairs. The routine continues without pause or question. Everyone knows their role and performs it seamlessly. As I finish reviewing the maintenance logs, a new alert pops up on my monitor. Another shift change in progress somewhere within the network of operations. The schedule updates automatically to reflect personnel rotations, ensuring smooth transitions and minimal downtime. These shifts are synchronized precisely with the central system, leaving no room for deviation or personal preference. I reach for another printed report TACA, detailed assessment of recent extraction yields compared against projected targets. The numbers show slight discrepancies, but nothing significant enough to warrant immediate action beyond routine adjustments. I make a note to escalate if trends persist over the next few cycles. The air conditioning hums louder as it struggles to maintain the prescribed temperature inside the office. Despite the constant maintenance efforts, the temporary nature of our facilities is evident in every detail. The creaking floorboards, the occasional draft that sneaks through gaps in the walls, and the dust that never seems to settle completely. I glance at the clock again. I'm now 9:45. Another hour has passed since I began my shift, marked by a series of procedural tasks and routine adjustments. The day continues on this predictable path, each moment aligned with the central system's dictates rather than any natural rhythm or cycle of the planet outside. A notification chimes softly from another terminal op, a message from logistics coordinating delivery schedules for incoming supplies. I click through to review the details, making minor adjustments before confirming and sending it back out. The system operates seamlessly, its efficiency a testament to years of refinement and optimization. The day progresses steadily, each moment marked by tasks completed, alerts addressed, and data analyzed. There is no room for contemplation or deviation, only adherence to the meticulously planned schedules that govern every aspect of our existence here on Pandora. Time belongs not to the planet, but to the system we have built up, and it moves forward with relentless precision. The day begins with the familiar buzz of my console, the screen glowing a sterile blue in the dim light. I check the checklist laid out meticulously on the clipboard: routine maintenance, system diagnostics, and safety protocols. Each task is noted in precise handwriting, a testament to those who came before me. I start with calibrating the sensors. The equipment hums softly as I plug in cables and adjust dials. Data streams across the screen, numbers and readings flashing methodically. It's an expected process, one that requires no deviation from the set procedures. I move through it mechanically, fingers tapping keys with practiced ease. Next is a routine inspection of the environmental protections. The gear feels heavy but comfortable against my body as I don my suit. The air inside smells faintly metallic, and the hiss of breathing apparatus echoes in my helmet. Outside, the terrain shifts beneath my feet. A gentle slope covered in dense foliage, the occasional sound of rustling leaves and chirping insects providing a backdrop to my work. I follow the checklist, checking seals on equipment, verifying oxygen levels, ensuring nothing is out of place. The forest around me is alive with movement, but it's merely an operational condition, something to be noted and accounted for in my reports. There are no surprises here. Everything operates according to plan. Back at the station, I review the data collected from earlier checks. The screen displays graphs and charts, all within acceptable parameters. I log the findings into the system, marking each entry with a timestamp and signature. This is my role, a variable, unassuming, part of an intricate network of tasks that must be completed without fail. Later in the day, there was a minor issue with one of the extraction machines. The console alerts me to a slight deviation in output efficiency. I consult the troubleshooting manual, tracing steps through diagnostic procedures, until I isolate the problem: a clogged filter, easily resolved by running a cleaning cycle. The machine hums back into optimal performance as I complete the task. Throughout it all, there is an underlying rhythm to my day. Start with maintenance, move on to inspections, finish with reports and troubleshooting. Each action defines me more than any thought or feeling might. My presence here is functional, necessary for the operation to continue seamlessly. As the day winds down, I prepare for the evening shift, knowing that tomorrow will bring another round of routine tasks. The environment remains constant. Nature sounds persistent but unremarkable. I am part of this system now, a cog in a machine that operates without pause or question. The constant background hum of the distant biological noise continues to fill the air. Tones, a rhythmic pulse, a persistent whisper that seems to merge with the faint murmur of machinery. The initial sensation is noticeable, an intrusion into the otherwise quiet expanse of my workspace. As I proceed through another series of routine tasks, checking and rechecking equipment readings, the noise gradually loses its sharp. It blends seamlessly into the ambient soundscape, becoming less distinct but still present. Each time I turn a corner or move to another station, the hum accompanies me, shifting slightly in pitch as if adjusting to my movements. With each passing hour, the biological noise fades further into the background. My attention is drawn more intensely to the screens before me and the tasks at hand. The rhythmic pulse remains, but it feels less like an interruption and more like a constant companion, one I barely acknowledge anymore. By the end of my shift, the hum has become nearly imperceptible. Eton's there, always present, yet no longer demands any conscious thought or attention. I move through the final checklist with ease, noting that everything is in order before signing off and preparing to leave. As I exit the facility for the day, stepping out into the cooler air of the night, the distant biological noise reemerges clearly, but feels almost foreign now. It takes a moment for my senses to recalibrate, adjusting back to the natural soundscape that was once so familiar before entering the controlled environment. The hum of machinery continues its steady rhythm as I move through the facility. My movements are synchronized with those around me, a seamless dance of task completion and efficiency. We flow together in a well-oiled machine, each action triggering the next in an endless cycle. Tasks are divided clearly, but the lines between us blur over time. The act of passing materials from one hand to another becomes fluid, devoid of individual recognition or distinction. Each person is simply a part of the larger process, interchangeable yet integral. There is no need for words. We communicate through shared timing and spatial awareness. As I work alongside others, our actions blend into a single choreographed routine. The repetitive nature of our tasks ensures consistency, reducing any chance for deviation. Our presence becomes less noticeable as we merge into the fabric of the operation. Each step is executed without pause or hesitation, following protocols that leave little room for error. The day progresses with precision, and I notice my own actions becoming part of a larger whole rather than isolated efforts. The sense of individuality fades, replaced by a collective drive toward completion. We move through our tasks with mechanical efficiency, each person's role blending seamlessly into the next phase of work. Exiting the facility, the sudden shift to natural sounds feels jarring at first. The contrast is stark between the controlled environment and the unpredictable world outside. I pause briefly, readjusting my focus from the regimented routine to the unstructured space beyond. Yet, within moments, the detachment sets in again, and I navigate the transition with practiced ease. The day concludes as predictably as it began, each step a link in an unbroken chain of operations. The sense of fulfillment comes not from personal achievement, but from the completion of tasks that are integral to the system-age function. There is no room for individual sentiment. Only a relentless pursuit of efficiency and order remains. The hum of the machinery fades into a distant echo as I complete another cycle of routine tasks. Each click and beep becomes less intrusive, receding into the background noise that defines this space. The fluorescent lights flicker slightly, casting brief shadows on the equipment around me, but my attention remains unswayed by such minor disturbances. I reach for my tablet to update the system logs, fingers moving swiftly across the touchscreen with practiced ease. The data entry is methodical and precise, each keystroke a confirmation of the day's work completed without deviation. There are no surprises today, only the steady pulse of operations that continue uninterrupted. As I finish logging the last detail, My eyes scan over the checklist one more time to ensure nothing has been missed. Everything aligns perfectly with expectations. Every task is accounted for, and the system operates as it should. The environment feels stable and predictable, a comfortable rhythm that requires no further action from me. I stand up, stretching slightly before donning my protective gear in preparation for the shift ends end. The air conditioning hums softly, maintaining a constant temperature that feels neither too warm nor too cold. My movements are deliberate, each step leading to the exit door, where I will transition back into the natural world outside. Exiting the facility, the sudden influx of ambient sounds is initially jarring. The rustling leaves, distant bird calls, and the soft breeze brushing against my skin all feel foreign after hours within the controlled environment. A momentary pause allows me to recalibrate, adjusting from the sterile routine to the unpredictable rhythms of nature. Back in the vehicle, I settle into a comfortable silence, reflecting briefly on the day's accomplishments before shifting gears towards home. The drive is familiar and uneventful, each turn and stoplight met with a practiced ease that mirrors the completion of another seamless cycle within the system. Arriving at my apartment, the transition from work to personal space feels smooth but distinct. I enter, shedding layers of protective gear, and move through the routine of unwinding, unpacking essentials, setting out tools for tomorrow's tasks, and preparing a meal with little thought. As I sit down to eat, the day's routines replay quietly in my mind, each task fulfilling its purpose without question or reservation. The sense of accomplishment is tangible yet unremarkable. Another successful cycle completed within an ongoing system that continues to operate efficiently. The evening fades into the night, and I prepare for rest, knowing tomorrow will bring more of the same predictability, routine, and the satisfaction of contributing to a well-oiled machine. The hum of the machinery and flickering lights have become an integral part of my daily routine. Each day begins predictably with a series of tasks that require precise execution. The environment here is controlled, designed to maintain optimal conditions for productivity. Every element has its purpose, from the temperature regulation to the lighting schedules. These are not arbitrary choices, but necessary measures to ensure operational efficiency and safety. Occasionally, minor issues arise, malfunctioning equipment or unexpected delays, but they are quickly addressed through systematic troubleshooting. The protocols in place dictate a structured response that minimizes downtime and maximizes output. There is no room for emotional distractions. Each problem is approached with logic and methodical steps to resolve it swiftly. This ensures the system remains stable and functions as intended. The environment here is sterile, devoid of unnecessary personal touches or comfort. Etons designed to facilitate focus on tasks without distractions. The hum of machinery serves as a constant reminder that everything operates within defined parameters, allowing for minimal disruptions and optimal performance. Over time, this background noise becomes less intrusive, blending seamlessly into the ambient soundscape. Exiting the facility, the sudden re-entry into a world with natural sounds can be jarring at first. It takes a moment to adjust, but soon the transition back to everyday life is made without hesitation. The environment outside is unpredictable compared to the controlled conditions within the facility, yet it too follows its own set of rules and patterns. This strictness and impersonality are not imposed arbitrarily. They serve practical purposes. In an environment where precision and safety are paramount, deviations can lead to significant risks. The protocols in place exist to mitigate these risks and ensure that operations proceed smoothly without unnecessary complications. Each rule is a response to specific conditions and variables encountered during resource extraction. By adhering strictly to these guidelines, we maintain the stability of the system and minimize potential hazards. This approach allows for efficient output while safeguarding both personnel and equipment from unforeseen issues. Eton's not about being harsh or rigid. Eton's about ensuring that every component works harmoniously towards a common goal. The day ends with a sense of fulfillment in having contributed to maintaining this operational efficiency. There is no room for emotional reflection or personal attachment. The tasks are simply completed as part of an ongoing process. Each shift contributes to the larger system, ensuring its continued functionality and productivity without deviation. Exiting the facility, I noticed the trees and underbrush more closely. Each one represents a variable in our operational modular resources to be quantified and extracted efficiently. The rate of growth and decay is an essential metric for planning our extraction cycles. We must maintain a delicate balance between yield and sustainability. The soil, rich with minerals, is another critical component. Its composition dictates the type and volume of resources we can extract without compromising future viability. Each gram of material we collect contributes to our throughput, which is monitored meticulously. Loss margins are minimized by precise calculations and continuous refinement of our methodologies. Today's shift involves assessing the impact of recent extraction on local flora and fauna. The data collected from sensors and drones provides a comprehensive overview of resource depletion rates and environmental changes. Adjusting our protocols based on these metrics ensures we maintain operational efficiency while adhering to ecological constraints. The environment is a dynamic system, constantly evolving due to various factors such as climate patterns and biological cycles. Understanding these variables allows us to predict future trends and adapt accordingly. For instance, if the rate of plant growth slows down in certain areas, it may indicate soil depletion or nutrient imbalance, which necessitates immediate intervention to restore equilibrium. Each decision made here is part of a larger process aimed at optimizing resource yield while minimizing environmental impact. The discomfort of witnessing changes in nature dissolves when translated into quantifiable data points. This abstraction allows for clearer, more objective assessments and decisions. Our work is essential not just for the corporation, but also for maintaining ecological balance on this planet. By carefully managing our extraction rates and monitoring environmental health, we ensure that future generations will have access to these resources without degradation. The precision of our methods and adherence to protocols are what make this possible. In this framework, living things become numbers varieties of growth, population density, resource consumption. This detachment is necessary for objective analysis and efficient operation. Each parameter we monitor and adjust contributes to the overall stability and sustainability of the system. The world outside remains a complex array of variables, but by breaking it down into manageable data points, our work becomes clearer and more purposeful. The satisfaction comes from knowing that every action we take is part of a larger strategy to balance resource extraction with environmental preservation. The air outside the facility is thick with humidity, a constant reminder of the jungle law's relentless grip. As I step out, the immediate sensation of moisture coating my skin feels invasive, but quickly becomes familiar, an expected variable in the operational landscape. The temperature spikes almost immediately, each breath drawing in the heavy scent of foliage and earthaw, a mixture that should be overwhelming, yet now merely serves as a backdrop to my tasks. The sun beats down relentlessly, casting stark shadows and highlighting the irregularities in terrain beneath my boots. Every step requires careful consideration. The ground is uneven, littered with roots and rocks, but each obstacle is predictable within the bounds of environmental data. I move swiftly, adjusting my pace to compensate for the shifting conditions. The heat radiates through layers of protective clothing, a dull hum that would have been unbearable weeks ago, but now registers only as information. The canopy overhead blocks much of the sun's direct rays, yet the ambient light filters through in patches, casting an ever-changing kaleidoscope of colors and shadows. This visual cacophony is another variable to process. Each flicker of light, a signal that needs decoding. The jungle itself feels alive, but predictable, its patterns and rhythms known and manageable. Fatigue begins to set in as the day progresses, muscles protesting under the relentless heat and humidity. Yet, each strain felt is not discomforting. Ita's data, confirming that my body is functioning within expected parameters. Sweat trickles down my back and into my eyes, an irritant but also a reminder of the efficiency of my metabolic processes. The rhythm of breathing becomes labored yet steady, another metric to track. The sounds of the jungle are constant symphony of birdsong, insect chirping, and distant rustling that could signify wildlife or natural movement. Each noise is not just background. Itan's input for analysis, potential threats, or opportunities. My ears strain to catch subtle changes, translating auditory signals into actionable information. The cacophony of sounds becomes a layered map of the environment, guiding my movements with precision. The duration and intensity of this sensory overload are expected variables, confirming that operations are proceeding as planned. Strain is not an obstacle, but a confirmation that everything is functioning correctly within the system's requirements. This detachment from emotional response allows for objective assessment and adjustment, ensuring optimal performance even under challenging conditions. As the day wears on, I continue my tasks with methodical efficiency, each moment of strain reinforcing the necessity of this approach. The jungle remains indifferent, its pressures a constant reminder of operational reality. But within me, there is a growing sense of purpose, a fulfillment derived from balancing resource extraction with environmental sustainability, ensuring that long-term viability is maintained while immediate impact is minimized. This detachment enables clarity and effectiveness in managing complex variables, turning discomfort into information, strain into confirmation. The jungle may be harsh, but it is also predictable within the parameters of my understanding. Each moment of stress serves to confirm that things are working, aligning with the system's logic rather than challenging. As I step out into the open expanse beyond the facility's sterile confines, a fleeting sensation of unease brushes against my awareness. Eton's a subtle whisper that suggests something may not align perfectly with the operational efficiency and precision to which I've become accustomed. The stark contrast between the rigid order within and the unpredictable nature outside momentarily creates a small gap in my otherwise seamless focus. Almost immediately, however, this sense of discord is corrected internally. I remind myself that such hesitations are merely remnants of an outdated way of thinking, no longer relevant or necessary for optimal performance. This detachment is not about fear, but about clarity. Each element around me can be assessed and managed effectively through a data-driven perspective. The landscape outside may appear harsh and unyielding, but to my analytical mind, it simply represents another set of variables to integrate into our operational framework. By viewing these elements as quantifiable inputs rather than sources of discomfort or distraction, I reaffirm the necessity of this approach for maintaining stability and efficiency. The purposeful detachment is a sign of maturity, not resistance or compliance, but an evolved understanding that facilitates seamless integration with the environment. This momentary lapse is swiftly addressed through self-censorship, reinforcing my commitment to the system's principles without any emotional weight. Each adjustment in thought aligns me more closely with the practical imperatives at hand, ensuring that I remain a reliable and efficient contributor to our overarching goals. Exiting the facility into the unpredictable world outside requires minimal adjustment. Each step feels calculated and deliberate, transforming sensory inputs into actionable data points rather than sources of discomfort or distraction. The harshness of the environment is manageable, its unpredictability another set of variables to be accounted for. The sense of purpose remains steadfast, driven by a need to maintain operational stability while balancing resource extraction with ecological sustainability. This balance is not merely a task, but an imperative, ensuring long-term viability and minimizing immediate impact through precise management. Fatigue is acknowledged as confirmation of optimal performance, reinforcing the necessity of this analytical approach. Each moment outside the facility is framed in terms of efficiency and safety. Discomfort dissipates when viewed through the lens of data-driven decision-making, allowing for objective responses to environmental changes without emotional interference. The environment's unpredictability becomes a challenge to be navigated rather than an obstacle to be overcome emotionally. The current psychological state is one of clarity and purposeful focus, reinforced by self-censorship to align thoughts with operational imperatives. This detachment stems from a mature understanding rather than fear or resistance. Each decision is rationalized through necessity, ensuring reliability and efficiency without emotional attachment. In this moment, being correct replaces any lingering sense of unease or uncertainty. The system functions as it should, workable but not ideal, yet effective in its purpose. There's no room for doubt, only the assurance that each action contributes to a stable and efficient operational framework. I begin my routine with precision, adhering to the established protocols that ensure operational stability. The day starts predictably with a series of mechanical tasks designed to maintain equilibrium and efficiency. However, there's an undercurrent of resistance today. Every action requires slightly more effort than usual. The first discrepancy appears during environmental monitoring. Sensor readings fluctuate minutely, introducing slight inconsistencies in the data stream. Adjusting for these variances demands extra attention. My focus sharpened by the need to reconcile discrepancies within acceptable parameters. This minor friction is manageable but noticeable, a subtle reminder that perfection remains elusive despite our best efforts. Moving through the facility, I encounter another deviation. Equipment that previously functioned seamlessly now requires recalibration. A small delay in system response time necessitates an additional step, confirming alignment with operational standards. The process feels cumbersome, each input and output more deliberate than usual. Yet, there's a sense of duty to ensure accuracy, even if it means devoting extra time to minor adjustments. Outside the controlled environment, nature presents its own challenges. The data I gather is slightly less reliable. Fluctuations in temperature and humidity introduce variables that demand closer scrutiny. These inconsistencies are not failures, but reminders of the delicate balance required for optimal performance. Each deviation must be accounted for meticulously, reinforcing a sense of vigilance rather than frustration. The environmental feedback becomes harder to abstract away, each sensory input carrying a hint of unpredictability. Yet, I persist with methodical precision, transforming potential discomfort into manageable metrics. The physical strain is accepted as confirmation of effective performance. Every additional step taken serves to solidify reliability and efficiency. Fatigue sets in subtly, but it's acknowledged without emotional interference. Each decision remains objective, framed within the necessity for operational stability. Discomfort is minimized by a disciplined approach to problem solving, turning unpredictability into challenges rather than obstacles. The system functions effectively, though not ideally, providing assurance that every effort contributes to long-term viability. In this phase, procedures still work, but demand increasing diligence. Efficiency produces friction instead of clarity, and each adjustment serves as a reminder of the evolving landscape we navigate. Though no longer seamless, the process remains essential for maintaining stability, a testament to the adaptive nature of our systems, even in their strained state. Today's readings indicate a slight fluctuation in energy output from Sector 7B dive. The numbers suggest an efficiency of 98%, which is well within acceptable parameters. Yet as I move through the space, It feels different. There's an underlying hum that was not there before, something faint but noticeable. I review the diagnostics again, hoping for a clear explanation. The sensors show no anomalies. Everything aligns with expected performance metrics. But when I reach out to touch one of the conduits, my fingers feel an unexpected warmth. Eton's minor, almost imperceptible, yet it registers as a deviation from what should be. I consult historical data, comparing current readings against patterns established over months. The variance is still within tolerable limits according to the system, but each time I step back into the physical environment, that subtle discrepancy becomes more apparent. Eton's, like the air, has thickened slightly, carrying a hint of something unquantifiable. The projections for energy distribution across the next few days predict stable conditions with minor adjustments required. Yet as I interact with the machinery and systems here, there is an unsettling sense that these projections are overly simplistic. The models fail to capture the full complexity of what's happening on the ground. I run a diagnostic again, this time focusing on localized readings rather than aggregated data. The sensors pick up more detailed variations, but they still fall within acceptable ranges. Yet my gut tells me there is something off, an underlying current that does not align with the neat graphs and charts. The environment here feels alive in ways it has not before. It taunts as if the systems are adapting on a level beyond what our models can predict or control. I try to rationalize this. Perhaps these small deviations are part of the system evolving organically, learning and adjusting in ways that are not yet fully understood. But even this explanation does not quite sit right. As I leave Sector 7B for now, the discomfort lingers. Eton's a nagging feeling, not overtly alarming but persistent enough to disrupt my usual sense of order. The data supports everything functioning as expected, yet there is an undeniable disconnect between what the numbers show and how things feel in reality. I make a note to conduct more granular tests tomorrow, hoping for clarity or at least better understanding. For now, I return to my console, the slight hum still echoing in my mind. The hum is more persistent today, a low drone that seems to vibrate through the walls and floor. It's not loud enough to be disruptive, but it's there, an unwelcome constant in my otherwise orderly routine. The warmth too, a subtle rise that shouldn't be significant enough to notice, yet it clings to me like a second skin. I review the sensor data meticulously, cross-referencing with historical norms and predictive models. Everything checks out within acceptable parameters, yet there's an undercurrent of unease, a nagging sensation that something is not quite right. The hum seems to pulse in sync with my heartbeat, a subtle mockery of precision and control. My focus narrows as I delve deeper into the discrepancies, trying to pinpoint any irregularities that could explain these anomalies. But no matter how closely I scrutinize, nothing stands out taunt, just minor deviations that are easily accounted for within the system's margins. Yet, the hum persists, an insistent reminder of a reality that doesn't conform neatly to my understanding. I attempt to rationalize it all. Perhaps my sensors need recalibration, or maybe there is some external interference I haven't not considered. But as much as I try to compartmentalize and address each concern systematically, the underlying discomfort remains. It's as if the environment itself is shifting beneath me, subtly altering its behavior in ways that don't align with established patterns. The warmth has grown slightly more noticeable, a gentle but unyielding presence that feels almost organica, alive even. It is not uncomfortable enough to demand attention, yet it is impossible to ignore entirely. I cannot shake the feeling that these sensations are connected to something larger, something beyond the immediate scope of my current understanding. Despite my efforts to maintain order and stability, there's a creeping sense of unease. The hum and warmth have become an inescapable backdrop to my day, a persistent reminder that despite all my rationalizations, some things refuse to be neatly contained or explained away. The hum in the background has become a constant companion, its presence a subtle yet persistent reminder of the ongoing need for vigilance. Each day I ensure that every system is functioning as it should, double-checking readings and recalibrating where necessary. The warmth is another point of concern. Etats not high enough to be alarming, but etats certainly noticeable. I remind myself that these anomalies are likely due to the increased load on the systems from recent upgrades. Efficiency has improved, which means more energy is being processed, leading to a slight uptick in ambient temperatures. The hum, too, can be attributed to this. More activity means more noise. It's important not to let small inconsistencies disrupt the overall function. I've already reviewed the data, and there's nothing out of the ordinary. The model's predictability, so these minor deviations must be within acceptable parameters. I take a moment to run through the checklist again. Sensors calibrated, systems optimized, redundancy protocols verified. Each step is deliberate, each confirmation reassured. The environment may seem alive with subtle changes, but it's still operating within known constraints. Yet, there remains an undercurrent of unease. It's as if constantly pushing back against a slight drift towards uncertainty. Every time the hum grows louder or the warmth becomes more pronounced, I have to remind myself that these are manageable issues. The data supports this up there. No reason to believe otherwise. I know it's crucial to maintain focus and not let any doubts take root. Each time I encounter an anomaly, I reiterate my understanding. The systems are stable, the model's accurate, and everything is as it should be. This repetition feels necessary, almost comforting in its insistence on normalcy. The hum and warmth are just part of a larger picture that remains predictable and controllable. Despite the nagging sensation that something might be shifting beneath the surface, I trust in my ability to keep things stable. As I continue through another cycle of checks and confirmations, the repetition becomes more automatic, a mantra of reassurance against any creeping doubt. The hum and warmth remain, but with each reaffirmation of stability, they seem less threatening. It's reassuring to know that even as challenges arise, my approach remains steadfast. I'll keep monitoring, recalibrating, and confirming until every discrepancy is addressed within the framework of established norms. This is how order is maintained. This is how function prevails. The hum continues, a persistent background noise that seems to pulse slightly in sync with my heartbeat. I would check the sensors again. They show no anomalies, only the usual readings adjusted for environmental factors. Yet, there is this nagging feeling that something is not quite right. The warmth is more noticeable now, seeping into places it should not be according to the models. I adjust the parameters, recalibrate, but the sensation remains a faint discomfort lingering just beneath the surface. Routine tasks feel increasingly mechanical, each one requiring a level of focus that was not necessary before. It's as if the system itself is subtly shifting, evolving in ways that are not entirely predictable or comprehensible. Yet, the hum and warmth are like whispers in my ear, reminding me that everything is not as stable as it appears on paper. I keep telling myself it's nothing to worry about, that Fave encountered similar discrepancies before and resolved them through careful analysis. But there is a part of me that cannot shake the sense of unease, this nagging doubt gnawing at the edges of my rational mind. It feels like I'm constantly on edge, vigilantly watching for any sign of something more significant than mere anomalies. Despite the discomfort, the system holds together through sheer force of will and meticulous attention to detail. Every deviation is addressed immediately, every minor inconsistency documented and analyzed. The environment seems alive in a way it has not before, shifting subtly beneath my feet. But I push those thoughts aside, focusing instead on maintaining equilibrium. The hum grows slightly louder, the warmth more pronounced, yet my systems remain stable. It taunts as if everything is balanced on the edge of something new, fragile and contingent. Each moment demands vigilance, each adjustment a careful dance between order and chaos. Nothing breaks, but nothing rests anymore. The constant hum in the air grows slightly louder, and the warmth spreads incrementally across surfaces that were once cool. Sensor readings remain within acceptable ranges, but my fingers detect subtle inconsistencies, a texture that shifts ever so slightly under touch, a vibration that was not there before. I run diagnostic checks repeatedly, yet the anomalies persist. The environment feels alive in ways previously unnoticed. Subtle changes that challenge the predictability of systems. Routine tasks demand more concentration than usual. Each keystroke carries an underlying tension. My eyes trace patterns on screens and walls that shimmer with a faint luminescence, not captured by sensors but visible to me. I adjust parameters meticulously, hoping for stability, yet the hum continues, a persistent reminder of something unsettled beneath the surface. Dust accumulates faster now, settling in corners where it was not before. The air feels thicker, heavier, and my movements feel more labored, as if navigating against an unseen current. Despite this, I methodically address each deviation, documenting changes meticulously. The environment responds mechanically, but no longer with the precision of a well-oiled machine. The hum crescendos into a low drone, and the warmth becomes palpable, radiating off surfaces in waves. My hands feel slicker as they move over controls, and the air seems to thicken further, making breathing slightly more difficult. I pause for moments, assessing conditions without emotion, noting the divergence from established norms. Environmental degradation is evident. Cracks appear along structural supports, and patches of once pristine surfaces now show signs of wear. The hum becomes a constant presence, almost intrusive but not entirely disruptive. Each check reveals minor discrepancies that accumulate, transforming operational realities into something less predictable and more uncertain. Despite efforts to maintain equilibrium, the environment's response grows increasingly erratic. Adjustments yield diminishing returns, as if the underlying systems are evolving beyond current understanding or control. The air holds a static charge, making my skin tingle with each touch, and shadows deepen in corners where light once reached easily. The narrator continues to work meticulously, documenting every deviation, yet the outcomes become less abstractable. Visible changes accumulate, reflecting operational realities that shift away from predictable norms. The hum of the systems around me grows louder, a constant reminder that everything is off balance. I can feel the static charge in the air, an ever-present tension that clings to my skin and makes every surface seem charged with potential energy. My movements are slower now, each step requiring more effort than before. The environment feels less like a familiar backdrop and more like an unpredictable force that could shift at any moment. I begin another routine check, documenting anomalies meticulously in the hope that some pattern will emerge from the chaos. Each data point is added to the growing record, but the results remain stubbornly inconsistent. The numbers on the screen fluctuate wildly, refusing to settle into any discernible trend. My hands tremble slightly as I type, a physical manifestation of the uncertainty seeping through my system. Breathing becomes more labored, each inhale and exhale demanding attention. The air seems thinner here, less supportive of my body's needs. Yet, stopping is not an option. Movement feels like a lifeline, even if it is just to keep me anchored in this shifting reality. I continue with the protocols, knowing that every action is another step toward an unknown end. The systems around me flicker intermittently, their reliability wavering beneath my fingers. Each failure brings a new wave of frustration, but there's no space for pause or reflection. My mind races through potential solutions, but each idea feels less and less viable as the anomalies multiply. The hum grows louder still, enveloping everything in a thick blanket of static. Despite the increasing difficulty, I push forward, driven by the necessity to maintain some semblance of control over this spiraling reality. Each task completed is another small victory, a fleeting moment of stability amidst the chaos. Yet, the sense of helplessness continues to grow, a weight that presses down on me with each passing second. The environment remains unpredictable, its shifts and changes impossible to anticipate. The static charge in the air seems to be building, making every surface feel alive with potential energy. Movement becomes my only anchor, the physical act of continuing, providing some semblance of normalcy amidst the turmoil. I proceed, driven by an unspoken obligation rather than any clear path forward. Each step is a continuation, not a choice. And I keep going because stopping is no longer defined as an option within this altered reality. The room is a grid of flickering lights and static charge. The hum of machinery feels louder now, a constant reminder that the environment does not yield to my will. I notice the subtle anomalies more acutely. Tasks once routine now require extra effort and focus. Adjustments are made meticulously, yet outcomes remain unpredictable. My hands tremble slightly as I document another failure. Each entry is a mark on an ever-growing ledger of uncertainty. The air feels thick with static, clinging to my skin like a second layer. Breathing becomes labored, each inhalation a small battle against the oppressive atmosphere. Movement is slower now, every step weighed down by the knowledge that stability is slipping away. I am aware of the damage, but it does not evoke emotion. Ita is simply another fact in an increasingly complex equation. The systems around me absorb my individual agency. Adjustments at this scale are beyond my reach. The static charge intensifies with each passing moment, a mechanical reminder of the environment's shift. My mind registers the impact neutrally. No blame, no accusation. I am merely observing the evolution of conditions that challenge established norms without offering recourse. Efforts to maintain order feel futile against the chaos. Each small victory offers brief respite, but cannot alleviate the mounting sense of helplessness. The room's hum and flickering lights ground me in a present marked by instability and uncertainty. Despite trembling hands and shortness of breath, I persist mechanically, driven by necessity rather than hope. Recognition exists without control, seeing clearly while lacking leverage. This is not a moment for despair or drama. It is the quiet acknowledgement of evolving conditions that defy individual adjustment. The air remains thick with static, a constant hum that seeps into every corner of my existence. Each breath feels labored, each step more cumbersome than the last. The routine tasks I once performed with ease now demand an intense focus and yield unpredictable results. Trembling hands grip tools tightly, but even this fails to steady the tremors. The environment itself seems to shift subtly, defying expectations at every turn. Small anomalies disrupt established patterns, making it harder to maintain order. Documentation is meticulous, yet outcomes remain uncertain, reflecting a reality that challenges my reliance on past norms. Despite these disruptions, I continue mechanically, driven by necessity rather than hope. Each small victory offers brief respite, but cannot alleviate the mounting sense of helplessness. The hum and static charge intensify the vulnerability, grounding me in a present marked by instability and unpredictability. Movement provides a fragile anchor amidst growing uncertainty, yet it does little to quell the underlying tension. The system favors continuation over correction, reinforcing feedback loops that push me forward despite diminishing returns. Efforts to maintain stability yield more complexity than harm reduction, aligning with an inertia that resists change. Alternatives exist only theoretically. As momentum replaces decision-making, my actions become a reflection of a structural reality, driven by procedural incentives and pressures rather than any conscious intent. Tasks once routine now demand greater attention, but produce less predictable outcomes. The thick, static charged air symbolizes the mounting uncertainty and vulnerability. Yet I observe these conditions neutrally, devoid of emotional reaction. Each step forward feels like a continuation of what must be done, not an expression of hope or despair. The static charge in the air remains constant, a persistent hum that grounds me in this new reality. Each breath feels labored, a reminder of the changing conditions around me. Tasks that once flowed smoothly require intense focus and effort, yielding results that are unpredictable at best. I document every detail meticulously, but the outcomes remain inconsistent and uncertain. Movement is slow and deliberate now, each step fraught with potential missteps. My hands tremble slightly as I navigate through daily routines, but they continue to function out of sheer necessity rather than any lingering hope for stability. Small victories offer fleeting moments of relief, but these are overshadowed by the pervasive sense of helplessness that seeps into every action. The environment's unpredictability has become normalized, a backdrop against which my actions must adapt. Each anomaly is acknowledged neutrally, without emotional charge or urgency. I'm driven solely by procedural pressures and incentives, operating within a framework where resistance to change is futile and alternatives are theoretical constructs with no practical application. Despite the mounting challenges, I persist mechanically, maintaining order in this altered reality. The thick air and persistent hum provide a constant reminder of my current state, anchoring me firmly in a present defined by uncertainty and tension. Each breath, each movement, each task continues as part of an ongoing function, without emphasis or conclusion. The air crackles with static, and each breath feels like pulling through thick syrup. My movements are slow and measured, every step deliberate against the altered ground beneath me. Trembling hands grip tools tightly, their edges sharp and unforgiving against my skin. Tasks that once were simple now demand intense focus. Even small victories feel fragile and fleeting. The environment hums with a constant low thrumming, a reminder of the unpredictable shifts around me. Each anomaly is acknowledged neutrally, another fact in an ever-changing landscape. There is no room for hope or despair. Only necessity drives my actions. Procedures dictate every move, guiding me through routines that once felt familiar but now seem alien. Breathing becomes labored as I push forward. Each inhalation, I struggle against the thickened air. The world around me is a mosaic of altered terrain, where once solid ground now gives way to unexpected changes. Each task completed offers brief respite, yet the overarching sense of helplessness remains unyielding. The static charge in the atmosphere intensifies my vulnerability, grounding me firmly in this present moment. Movement anchors me amidst growing uncertainty and tension. Despite the physical strain and mental fatigue, persistence continues mechanically, driven by procedural pressures rather than conscious intent or emotional response. Each breath and step becomes a ritual, maintaining order in an altered reality where change is accepted as normal. The environment's unpredictability has settled into a familiar rhythm, anomalies acknowledged with detached neutrality. Resistance to this new norm feels futile. Alternatives remain theoretical constructs without practical application. Life continues within these outcomes, not questioning causes or seeking resolution. Each small victory provides temporary relief, but fails to alleviate the pervasive sense of helplessness that envelops me. The world around me is a settled result, and I inhabit it mechanically, driven solely by necessity. The day starts with the usual disorientation. I wake to a room that shifts slightly each time my eyes adjust, as if ETA is testing my tolerance for change. The air is cool, not cold, and dampness clings to everything like an unwanted layer of skin. I sit up slowly, mindful of the vertigo that comes from sudden movements. My body feels disconnected, mechanical in its actions. I stretch, each muscle responding with a dull ache that fades as quickly as it emerges. The routine begins. Check the air quality. Adjust filters if necessary. Monitor for any shifts in the environment's unpredictability. The screens flicker to life, displaying data thotons become familiar but meaningless, a litany of numbers and colors that signify nothing more than what they are. I move to the kitchen area where supplies are stored. The shelves hold a variety of nutrients and supplements, each one serving its purpose without fanfare. I select what I need, not out of hunger or desire, but out of necessity. My hands know their job. They fill the containers with precision, then seal them tightly. Next comes the maintenance check on the habitat's exterior. The walls are lined with sensors and protective layers that must be monitored regularly. Each panel I touch emits a low hum, confirming its status. If any anomalies appear, there odds no alarm or warning, just a subtle change in tone or color. I move to the sleeping quarters next, laying out fresh bedding and making sure the environmental controls are set correctly for rest. The bed feels strange under me, as if it too has grown accustomed to my absence of presence. The cycle repeats without end. Eat, monitor, maintain, sleep. Each task is a mechanical dance devoid of purpose or consequence. There is no hope that any action will make a difference. There is no fear that things could get worse. I am simply here, existing in this altered reality. When the day ends, it blends seamlessly into night. The only change is the shift from routine tasks to preparing for sleep. As I lay down, the room adjusts around me once more, settling into a pattern of restlessness until the next cycle begins anew. I stand here, fingers numb from the cold, gripping the metal frame of the maintenance ladder. Each rung I climb leaves my muscles taut with tension, but there's no room for relief. The world around me shifts, a constant dance of altered landscapes that seem indifferent to my presence. The sky above is an endless wash of gray, devoid of any discernible pattern or direction. It's as if the clouds have been painted over in a uniform shade, leaving no trace of blue or white, or even the occasional stormy black. The air is thin and cold, cutting through my layers like blades. My task today is straightforward: inspect and tighten bolts on the structural supports. Each bolt turns smoothly under my hand, but there's no satisfaction in the act. It's just a series of motions repeated until I'm sure they're all secure. There is no sense of accomplishment or failure. It's simply what must be done. The ground beneath me is uneven, patches of hard earth alternating with soft grass that sucks at my boots when I step down. The sensation is familiar, but the surroundings are always changing, making each step a careful calculation rather than a confident stride. There is no point in wondering why this place looks different from yesterday or last week. It's just what it is. I reach the top of the ladder and move to the next support beam, my eyes scanning for any signs of wear. The bolts are tight enough, but I know need checking again tomorrow. There's a rhythm to these tasks now, each day blending into the next without distinction. No plans beyond the immediate requirements, no thoughts of what comes after. I move on to the next section, my mind focused solely on this task at hand. The world can shift and change as it will. My focus remains narrow and practical. Only what is in reach matters. The gray sky stretches endlessly above, unchanging and unremarkable. My hands move precisely through the routine, adjusting settings on machines that hum with a familiar rhythm. The cold air bites at my skin, but it no longer stirs any sense of discomfort or warmth. It simply is. Each task follows another without interruption. I check sensors, recalibrate systems, and document changes meticulously. There is no room for error, only necessity. The data scroll past on screens, numbers, and patterns that once held significance now blend into a monotonous stream. They are just what they are, devoid of deeper meaning. My body moves through the space with mechanical precision, each action measured and controlled. Hunger is a distant sensation, no longer driving me, but merely existing as an acknowledgement. Food arrives at predetermined intervals, consumed without thought or pleasure. Beyond simply sustenance, nothing more. The environment around me shifts subtly, adapting to unspoken needs. New challenges arise daily, but they are met with the same detached resolve. I adapt and adjust, finding comfort in the routine rather than any emotional connection. Each new obstacle is a minor inconvenience resolved through familiar procedures. In this altered reality, there is no sense of loss or longing. Instead, there is an acceptance that things work differently now. The void left by absence is filled with relentless efficiency and repetition. Comfort comes from knowing the next step without questioning why. The world around me continues to function, albeit in a new form. I am part of this machine, moving through tasks with no sense of purpose beyond immediate necessity. The cold air, the unchanging sky, they are constants that anchor me here, not symbols or metaphors, but simply elements of an altered existence. Days blur together, each one indistinguishable from the last. The monotony is a shield against reflection, protecting me from thoughts I can no longer afford to dwell on. Existence continues in this new shape, efficient and incomplete, yet sufficient for continuation. I wake up again in this cold gray room, the same as always. My body moves mechanically to begin the day's tasks. Check the environmental systems. Ensure there are no breaches or malfunctions. The air is thin and dry, but it does not matter much anymore. I have learned not to feel. The routine is set. I do not need to think about where to start or what comes next. My hands move over the controls with practiced ease, each button pressed, each screen monitored. There is no sense of accomplishment in these actions, just a dull awareness that they must be done. Outside the window, there are still only the endless expanse of muted sky and indistinct terrain. It's hard to remember what it was like before this place, when colors were vivid and the world felt vast and alive. Now, it all seems washed out, unimportant. I prepare my meager rations for breakfast, not because I am hungry, but because it is time. The food tastes bland, but that's fine too. There is no joy in eating anymore, just a quiet acceptance of necessity. Later, I clean the small space we inhabit with meticulous precision. Each surface is wiped down, and each item placed exactly where it belongs. It is not for any aesthetic reason. There is nothing beautiful about this place, but order brings a strange comfort. A sense that at least something remains predictable in an unpredictable world. As the day progresses, I find myself thinking less and less. My mind drifts into a detached state, observing without engaging. There are no more questions or yearnings, just the monotony of existence. In the evening, I review the day's logs for any anomalies or needed adjustments. Everything is as it should be. There are nothing out of place. That's all that matters now on. Maintaining the system, sustaining life within these walls. I prepare to sleep, knowing tomorrow will bring another cycle of tasks and routines. There is no anticipation, no dread, just a quiet acknowledgement of what comes next. My eyes close as I lie down on my cot, feeling neither tired nor rested. The thoughts that might have once